It's been a while since I've checked out OnePlus's sub-brand, the Nord series. This whole lineup is supposed to provide a lot of what makes the mainline OnePlus devices desirable, but for a more affordable price. And from what I remember with a previous look at an original OnePlus Nord, they did a pretty good job of it. And now we're on the third main release from the sub-brand, and it's continuing that philosophy with the help of some good design choices and the power of MediaTek, who actually helped me get my hands on this new Nord. So why don't we go ahead and take a closer look. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? This is the OnePlus Nord 3, powered by MediaTek, who are also the sponsor of this video. A big thanks to MediaTek for sponsoring this video and for giving me a chance to spend some time with the OnePlus Nord 3. Now, the mainline editions of the OnePlus Nord, they usually come out in Europe and India, and the US gets the even more budget-minded Nord N series smartphone, so it's pretty cool to have some time with what we could call the flagship of the OnePlus Nord series. Like any good Nord, the signature blue color is prevalent on the packaging, but I actually have the misty green colorway here. I can really appreciate this particular shade that is kind of a mix of that Nord blue, but with a mix of green put in. And it's also found in the included case, which is a great addition to have in the box. And as a bit of a far cry from even some higher end phones these days, the Nord 3 comes with the fast charger, and we're getting some high speeds here via 80-watt wired charging. Even better, this phone sports a 5000 mAh battery that should allow the phone to go for a while under heavier usage. So for those of you who are more power user types, this is a great prospect. The fact that you can work and play for a while on here and then charge up even quicker. But that USB-C port for the fast charging is just one part of an overall good-looking device. I already talked about the colorway here, but there is also what looks to be a pretty large camera package up here at the top corner. A closer look reveals that one of these circles houses two lenses, two sensors, while the other one is a proper full camera. Now, I suspect that this camera is going to have one main sensor that does a great job while the others support the experience. That is pretty common for more budget-friendly phones these days, so we'll take a look at that more later with some camera samples. One thing I did have to look up is whether or not these are dual flashes here. This one is definitely a flash, but this lower section right here is actually a light and color sensor. One final thing I'll say about the general design of the phone is that the glossy backing does mean this phone is really fingerprint and smudge prone. But then again, that's the reason why having an included soft case is such a nice touch for OnePlus to include here. Another nice inclusion is the alert slider. I know it was a little touch and go there for a bit, but worry not. The iconic OnePlus feature is here on the OnePlus Nord 3. To be fair though, I pretty much put it in vibrate mode all the time, but any extra bit of tactility in a smartphone is something I will always welcome. Finally turning the phone around and we get to the high-resolution Fluid AMOLED display, which rocks a bunch of specs that you might not actually expect from a mid-range device. Now, I said high resolution, and I meant it. This screen gets really close to Quad HD resolution. In reality, it's just below that mark, but it's certainly greater than the Full HD Plus resolution that I would have otherwise expected to be here. Aside from that, the AMOLED display does bring 120Hz refresh rate, which will be great for gaming on the go, depending on what game you're playing, of course. One of OnePlus's particular features that support this further is the HyperTouch engine, which helps make sure that touch latency is as low as possible when playing. Now, before we power up a game or two on here though, I have to mention, you gotta look at the bezels on here, and by that I mean the lack of bezels. While there is a punch hole here for the front-facing camera, the area around the display is actually quite minimal, which is yet another nice quality of life aspect that the Nord manages to bring here. And that's without using any trickery like a curved display. This thing is flat throughout. The result is a very nice viewing experience for all kinds of media consumption, especially with this large screen real estate of around 6.7 inches. So from viewing, we go to playing, and there's plenty of fun to be had here thanks to a number of features that are provided by both OnePlus and MediaTek. MediaTek actually powers this phone with one of their high-end processors, the Dimensity 9000. For those of you who want to get the nitty-gritty, the Dimensity 9000 is a 4nm processor that helps to unlock a lot of the features I just mentioned, like the high refresh rate display. OnePlus helps to keep the processor running cooler for longer with a large vapor chamber cooling system. Now, higher end games like Honkai Star Rail are still going to eventually get the phone a bit warm to the touch, but the point is prolonging the amount of time that takes to happen, and also keeping the phone at just the right temperature so that frame rate and overall performance does not nosedive. I can comfortably say that this is the case with the combination of the Dimensity 9000 and the cooling system, which is a huge plus for those who want a more affordable phone. And even if you're not a big gamer, running through applications notifications, sometimes all at the same time, has been smooth and reliable on here. And that's thanks to the ARM v9 architecture that's in the Dimensity 9000, which helps enable immediate responsiveness while multitasking and when using multiple apps at once, something that I do quite often. And thankfully, there isn't too much getting in the way of just good old productivity thanks to Oxygen OS. While Oxygen OS may have leaned into its more color OS roots over the last few years, that doesn't mean that it's gotten any less capable or even bloated as a result. Any extra features on the OS level are in one place under the special features page in the settings. There are also a few apps inside of this OnePlus drawer. Let me just head over there real quick, including a first-party notes app and an app for the built-in IR remote. IR remote, that's something you don't see every day. But back to the special features, I wanted to highlight the Zen Space, which puts the phone in a low distraction state by turning off apps and notifications either of your own choosing or actually altogether. Sometimes you just need to put the phone away and focus, which is nice for OnePlus to encourage via this mode. There's even a deep Zen mode that is basically an all-in version of the Zen mode. Not only does it turn off almost everything so you don't get distracted, you can only really make calls or emergency calls here, but you can't even turn it off before the allotted time that you set. Like, it's just going to be in Zen mode until that timer runs out. And if I could just say, those of you consistent social media doom scrollers, you may want to pay attention, because this might actually be a great way to take a break from all of that, and it's built into the OS. As far as other specs are concerned, the Dimensity 9000 is supported by up to 16GB of RAM and 256GB of onboard storage. I already mentioned the 5000 mAh battery, but I want to highlight it again because it's not a capacity we see in even plenty of higher-end smartphones. Honestly, practicality seems to be part of the philosophy of the Nord brand, and this is a great example of it. I have to give OnePlus credit for providing a suite of specs that are really useful for most people who just want to save a little bit of money, especially since SuperVOOC 80-watt charging isn't just theoretical when purchasing this phone, it is straight up included in the box. Alright, we're ending on the camera, again supported by the Dimensity 9000 for proper processing of photos and videos. I'll say that photos are the priority here, mainly because video resolutions are a little bit limited, but that's to be expected. 4K video recording is available when using the main sensor because the 8-megapixel ultra-wide, the 2-megapixel macro, and the 16-megapixel selfie shooters all don't have that capability. So as I said before, the 50-megapixel main sensor is the one to use for almost all scenarios. It is an IMX890 sensor, which is a highly capable camera, and photos coming from it certainly look pretty good in proper lighting. I did shoot in some darker scenarios, but with the night mode that triggers accordingly in auto mode, the results were still supported by extra processing anyway. The ultra-wide camera gets the job done, getting some more dramatic shots with more in the view, and the macro shooter is likely to be seldomly used, so it's the main sensor definitely that pulls as many duties as possible, right down to providing some good quality 2x zoom for both photos and videos at 4K resolution, as you can still shoot 4K when you are zoomed in. I can also appreciate that there are extra modes here for extra fun. There's also the movie mode that shoots at a wider aspect ratio for cinematic footage and provides full control over video settings. Ultimately, the Nord 3 has a capable camera system that might not have a ton of reach or is geared toward content creators, but for an everyday user that just wants to document some memories, it is plenty, especially via that main sensor. And so, there you have it, a look at the OnePlus Nord 3, powered by MediaTek and their Dimensity 9000. The Nord lineup has always been about providing as much as possible for less, and I think that the Nord 3 does a pretty good job of bridging a number of gaps that might come up. Plenty of features from the high refresh rate AMOLED display, to the 5000 mAh battery, to the reliable performance thanks to the Dimensity 9000, those are all here. And when put together, it's almost a surprising amount of practicality in a phone that comes in under $500 US. I do wish that this phone would be available in the US, but for those of you in Europe and India, you have a great option right here if you want to save a little bit of money but still have good performance on the daily. I want to give another thanks to MediaTek for sponsoring this video and for letting me check out the OnePlus Nord 3. Let me know what you think about this phone in the comments down below, especially if you picked one up for yourself. But from there, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and enjoy your tea, everybody.